If you're it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about my most hated book characters of all time. I tried to do like a top 5, but there's like one shout out, so realistically it's more of a top 6, but it's all good. Let me know in the comment section your most hated book characters because I want to know. Obviously this video is not going to be spoiler free. I always try to keep my videos spoiler free, but it's kind of hard to explain why these characters are so horrible without going into details, so you can always skip ahead if you don't want to know anything about said books, but I will be putting them on the screen or holding the book, so once it's in the background I'm done with it and you can come back. The first one is probably not as serious as the other ones, but it was important for me to talk about it because oh my, can I not stand this character. And it is from Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have read the book, I have watched the BBC TV show, which is the best one. There's the Hollywood version and then there's the Bollywood version because that's also a thing, and I enjoyed all three. I actually would love to debate in the comment section who's the best like actor for each character because I definitely have strong opinions about this, but yeah, let's focus on my most hated characters. Can you guess? Let me start with the premise. This famous book follows Elizabeth Bennet and her 4 sisters, and basically her mom is trying to desperately find them husbands because once her father dies, the estate is going to go to a cousin because they're all women, right? So things get a little intense trying to find them husbands, and the characters are meant to be very silly and Elizabeth is supposed to be the sane one there. And there's obviously some pride and some prejudices that are going to happen, love stories and everything. But the characters I needed to talk about is the youngest Bennet, which is Lydia Bennet. And I don't know if anyone else is going to agree, but I'm getting to the point where if I am to rewatch the movies or TV show or something, I have to like skip ahead her scenes because I cannot stand her. And I know there's a bunch of ridiculous characters in here, but she is the worst, straight up the worst. And I feel like the actress actually during the BBC version did such a great job at being insufferable that like I can't see her face anymore. I just couldn't do it. The worst part to me is that she keeps acting like she's not doing anything wrong. She's very, very naive. She's completely silly. She keeps doing things that just put her whole family in trouble, basically. And obviously the worst thing she does is to just go away and elope with George Wickham, which is not actually a good person, and then people having to go and fix all those issues, and she's still thinking that she's much better than everyone else after doing all those awful things, and she's just like not realizing everything goes so far up her head. And yeah, she keeps driving me crazy because I just want to shake her, you know what I mean? So obviously definitely the least serious, most hated characters, but I'm really to that point where I can't even see the actresses that play her. They did a great job, but they're insufferable and I can't deal anymore. So definitely needed to give a huge mention to Lydia Bennet. Anybody else? I feel like just the fact that she like still thinks at the end that she did nothing wrong is like the worst. Ugh. I could not do a video about my most hated characters without mentioning Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. Let's be real, she's the worst. Kid, you would agree. Adult, you probably still agree. The first time I read it, I just could not understand how someone so evil could exist everything. And I know that some people are like, well, she can't be worse than Voldemort, but yes, she can. And I think the biggest part of that is that she's so realistic. I feel like we all know someone like this, and it just makes it 100% worse. Like Voldemort is like this mystical big enemy, villain, but she's real. Way, way too real. And I feel like, again, the fact that she loves to wear pink and has a bow in her hair and she loves kittens, it just makes it all so much worse, and I just could not deal with her. Obviously, her torturing children for fun and hiding behind the law and just enjoying the whole thing makes it a million times worse. And even her being evil to centaurs and just being an awful person to begin with. I just hated her the first time, like I said, I was reading this book. But every single time I go back, I still can't believe she was able to do all of these things. But then again, these things do happen in real life, unfortunately. So yeah, I feel like everyone will agree about this one. Dolores Umbridge is the worst, definitely one of my most hated book characters. But at the end of the day, I simply can't understand how someone could enjoy torturing children so much For example, Harry Potter having that scar on his hand, I can't lie, I should not lie or something. I don't remember the exact wording. But terrible person obviously needed to be mentioned in here. But I also needed to include my special shout out because Severus Snape needed to also be mentioned because I hate him more and more. The more people defend him, the more I hate him. And the thing is, I understand that he's a very interesting character. He's supposed to be more complex than other ones that have been in this series. However, just because you do one good thing doesn't make you a good person. You know what I mean? And I hate how everyone is using the always and the love that he had for Lily to compensate for every other awful thing he did, and I don't get it. Because at the end of the day, it was still completely selfish of him to like protect Harry. Sure, it was like the one good thing he did, but it was still for selfish reasons. So I personally don't like him at all. I don't understand how people can forget that he tortured children again. It seems to be a theme here in Harry Potter. But like the fact that Neville, poor Neville, who had like horrible life with his parents being tortured until they went crazy, and Severus Snape, just for fun, continues to antagonize him non-stop. And he's literally his worst nightmare because whenever there's that scene with Lupin as a teacher, and is it a Bogart? I read it once in English, so I don't remember terms. But yeah, that scene where Severus Snape basically is his worst nightmare and he has to like try to make it funny and thinks about his grandma. Severus basically dressed as his grandma. Like, it's a funny scene, but when you think about it, the fact that after everything that happened in his life, instead of being like tortured like his parents or dead or something, it's Snape that is his worst nightmare. I don't know. I just cannot forgive him. I don't think being in love once and being nice for one thing compensate for everything. I don't know. I think he's a piece of poo anyway, and I don't like him. Definitely, again, most hated characters. I think he deserved a shout out in here. So he's basically my number 6. So yeah, those for Harry Potter. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. The next book I needed to talk about is this huge brick, It by Stephen King. Stephen King definitely has a lot of evil characters in his book. There's so many in here that could have been mentioned, but I chose one because he's the worst, I guess, kind of, for me. Every time I hold this book, I'm always shocked at how big this thing is. But yeah, I need to talk about Patrick Oxtetter. Oh my, such a complex character, so many things to say. Obviously, spoiler, like for everything in this video, but I think we tend to remember him for more that one scene about the fridge in the junkyard where he just, for fun, decides to torture animals and just shove them in the fridge and leave them until they die and then starve to death basically for his own pleasure, sexual pleasure, and it's just messed up as hell. And I feel like it's probably why people tend to see him even more as a psychopath. Even though there's also the fact that he thinks he's the only real person that exists, and the fact that he did murder his own brother, baby brother, just because he was jealous of the attention. And I feel like we tend to forget all of these things and focus on the animals. At least I do. And I don't know why. It feels like it's even worse. But yeah, it wasn't just that. It was a creepy person, you know, keeping dead flies in his pencil bag, and the fact that he was obviously a creep and like grabbing female characters or female students, and yeah, just an overall awful person. But yes, I'm just still so traumatized by that scene in the junkyard and animals in a fridge. Like for me, it's like so evil that I would have never thought about, well, not doing those things, obviously not, but like to just read it was just so disturbing. And obviously many disturbing scenes in here, not just with him, but for some reason it's the one that really stuck with me. I still haven't watched the movie because I'm not sure I can take this. But yeah, if you were looking for a disturbing book, I mean, if you've watched this part of the video, you probably have read it. We can all agree that it's messed up all around, but yeah, for some reason, it's the one character that stuck with me the most. Is it the case for you? Are there any other scenes that you thought were really messed up? I feel like the torture, like, the kid bullying and just like writing his name on the other kid's belly is also really awful, but for some reason, the junkyard scene, man, it just gets to me. So obviously, Stephen King definitely writes a bunch of messed up characters, so I have another one to talk about, and it's one of his most recent books. I feel like not a lot of people, I haven't heard actually anyone talk about this book. on booktube at least, but Sleeping Beauties by Owen King and Stephen King. They wrote it together, and I'm gonna mention the summary because not a lot of people will be familiar with it, but it's basically a disease that starts affecting women and putting them kind of in a cocoon where they become pretty dangerous. They kind of go to sleep and don't wake up, and if you try to wake them up, they'll just kill you and then go back to sleep. Messed up. So female characters obviously trying to stay awake, and you're following a bunch of the characters that are working or are in a female prisons. And obviously, prison place, there's gonna be easy way for horrible characters to try and be empowered, and this is where we get to Don Peters. He is such a but really misogynist piece of shit. That's just the best way of saying it. Think about someone, like, you've probably all seen someone in a movie or known someone in real life that just being next to them makes you feel kind of dirty and in need of a shower. They're like sticky, yucky, creepy people. While being like, he's just such a weak person that he needs to like establish power over everyone else and just try to become in power against them. And obviously being a guard in a female prison, you kind of get where this is going. Basically sexual assault, rape, and just trying to get into corners where cameras can't get him and forcing the female prisoner to do things to him, and just such an awful person. And it also results in him at home. He lives with his mom because obviously go full on stereotype, might as well go there. And he's just so horrible to his mom, and it just, I don't know, like, honestly, creepy, yucky is the best way of saying it. The type of person that, like, while reading the book, I literally wanted to burn it. Like, throw it as far as I could and just not want to, like, continue because, again, it felt too real. Like, some evil characters are just, like, so far away. You don't meet people like that, or they're just, you know, villains. But he is also someone that, it just hits a little too close to reality, and it just, like, the best way of describing it is by making that face, straight up. So yeah, Don Peters, very slimy, disgusting person, and definitely easily one of my most hated book characters, like, of all time. Could not stand it. If you want to feel the same, definitely read his book. But yeah, last but not least, I could not do a video about my most hated book characters without mentioning Joffrey from Game of Thrones. And I don't have my physical copy because I gave it away to someone and I shall never see it again. You know how this goes, but it's okay. I've also watched a TV show and he's also just as hateable in it. Obviously, child of incest, probably the reason why he's such a sociopath, or so we're kind of told in the book. I think the worst part is obviously that he's an incompetent person, that he's very much of a narcissist, and he loves bullying and just being a cruel person. For example, at one point where he's asking someone to choose between getting his fingers cut or his tongue. Who does that? And the fact that he thought he was such a great king when really he was horrible at it. Obviously also that scene where he killed her first most loved character. I feel like that's where we started realizing shit is going to happen in this book / show. And the fact that, like, killing Ned Stark was basically an impulse, and just because he didn't want to deal with it and because he could. And let's be real, because he was such a sadistic person, nobody was really sad when he met when he met his death by drinking the poison glass of wine. I think we all felt very good about it because, I mean, he kept doing such horrible things to people that didn't even deserve it. Obviously being also horrible to Sansa, who was so in love with him, and he just kept torturing her for pleasure. And yeah, I mean, horrible character that we all enjoyed absolutely hating. And I think that after watching the show, the actor did such a great job, and the fact that he's also such a sweet person in real life just made the contrast even more, like, powerful. So yeah, those are probably my top 5 / 6 most hated book characters of all time. Please let me know your top 5 or 6 if you want to, book characters that you cannot stand, either because they again are too close to reality, or just because they're awful people, generally speaking, or you just can't stand them. Let me know. I want to know which books I should try to get to if I want to also hate them with you. As always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe because you definitely don't want to miss out on any future videos. And I will be putting on the screen of the videos that I've done that I recommend you check out. And I shall see you in my next one. Bye.